everyone, and welcome to another Knitty Heather Scrap. Today I would like to convince you to try sock knitting. My name is Heather, and this is the series on my channel where I explore shorter subjects in the fiber world. If you would like to hear full details about all the projects I am currently working on, please check out my podcast videos. Socks are my absolute favorite thing to knit. I always have several pairs of socks on the needles, and I highly encourage you to give them a try, even if you are a beginner who's only done a garter stitch scarf before. If you can knit and purl, you can knit yourself a lovely pair of socks. Don't be intimidated by sock knitting. It's worth giving it a shot. I'm sure there are many other reasons out there, but here is my list of reasons why I love sock knitting and think you should give it a try. Leave a comment down below if you are a sock knitter. Let me know how you like to knit your socks and why you like it. And if you are an experienced sock knitter, tell me about your journey into loving sock knitting. First of all, they are one of the most practical things you can knit. You may not wear a shawl or a sweater or even a scarf, gloves, or hat every day, but you can pretty much wear a pair of socks every day. There's nothing like a cozy hand-knit pair of socks. I'm one of those people that even wear socks in the middle of July or August. I don't care. I just love a cozy pair of socks. They are also very portable. They don't take up much space, even if you're doing 2 at a time, and they fit in these cute little sock bags. Socks are great things to keep with you when you end up with a few minutes here or there to get a few rounds of knitting done. Whether you're in a waiting room or waiting in the car, they're the perfect project to take along with you wherever you go. Socks are also the perfect opportunity to use some wilder, more colorful yarns that you might not otherwise use. I know if I were knitting myself a sweater, for example, I would probably choose more of a neutral color, but with sock yarn you can get away with fun variegated, speckled, self-striping. The sky is the limit. Here are some fun examples of some bright colorways I have that will specifically be used for socks. This is Hedgehog Fibers in the colorway Park Life. This is Crystal Skies Hand Dyed from Etsy, and this pretty buttery yellow colorway is called Under the Tuscan Sun. This is from the Yarn Jar shop, and it's the colorway Let's Be Unicorns in black, a super fun self-striping with bright neon colors. And then this is another self-striping yarn. This is Two Sisters Yarn Company out of Montana, and this is the colorway Make It Pop. You can also get colorways for whatever holidays you enjoy and be able to wear those colors without going too over the top. The possibilities are also endless with fun sock sets with a coordinating mini like this one from Nicole of Hue Loco in the colorway Jet Setter. You can use the minis for any combination of heels, toes, and cuffs. Use them for all 3, use them for just 1. The sky is truly the limit with sock sets. They do only take 1 skein of yarn, so you don't have to feel guilty about buying that one pretty skein of yarn that catches your eye. You can always make socks out of it. Even though you usually use small needles and thin fingering weight yarn for socks, they don't take as long as you might think. There's enough variety between each section of the sock to keep your interest. You are never stuck on one part for too long. Even the longest sections which would be the leg and foot, offer you a nice relaxing flow of stockinette, and just when you're starting to get tired of that, you get to move on to the next part. Probably my favorite reason for loving sock knitting is all the different techniques you can try. You can do them one at a time, two at a time with magic loop on a long circular needle, or you can do them two at a time in tandem where you're working on both socks at the same time and maybe working like 10 or 15 rounds on one sock, then 10 or 15 rounds on the next one, and kind of keeping up with both socks that way. You can also knit them cuff down or toe up. There are different needles you can use. My preferred method is magic loop with a circular needle. I usually use a 32-inch needle if I'm only doing one at a time. And then I use a 40-inch needle with a little bit longer of a cord if I'm doing two at a time. There are also people who like to do basically the same magic loop technique, but with two 24-inch circulars. Some people also like to use double pointed needles, either 4 or 5 of them, where your working stitches are split between either 3 or 4 of your needles, and then you have your extra 4th or 5th needle that you work off of one needle onto your empty one. Knitting with double pointed needles looks kind of fiddly, but it's really a nice way to work small circumferences. I highly encourage you to give that technique a try if you haven't had a chance to yet. There are also some relatively new products out there, one of which are 9-inch circulars. This is from ChiaoGoo. And you will need to do your toe on either DPNs or magic loop, but a lot of people love these because you can just knit round and round and round and round on the leg and foot sections. And people really love just being able to cruise along with these. They also eliminate any ladders you might get between needles if you're using magic loop or DPNs. You can also get some interchangeable sets where there's different tips for different sizes. And what you can do is attach a longer needle on one end and then the shorter one on the other, and it gives you a little bit more to grip if that's a problem you have using 9-inch circulars. Finally, there are flexible double point needles called Flexi Flips. Other brands, these are from Addi. Other brands call them different things, but they have a really tiny little cord in the middle, and they're sort of a hybrid between double pointed needles and magic loop. They are like double pointed needles in that you knit off of one needle to the other, but there are only 3 of them, so you have half your stitches on your 2 needles and then you use your working needle to knit around. It gives you the flexibility to have half of your stitches on one needle and the other half on the other, and to basically knit like magic loop. We talked about the different yarns and the different needles you can use, but the really fun part is just all the different techniques you can use for the actual construction of your sock. You have limitless possibilities. You can use any different kind of ribbing pattern for your cuff. Some people like to do 2x2 ribbing, some like to do 1x1, or you can get really fancy and use some twisted ribbing where you might do 2x2 twisted rib where you have 2 knit stitches through the back loop and then 2 purl stitches. Again, there are so many different choices for ribbing that you can use for your cuffs. There are also so many pretty patterns you can use for your legs and feet if you don't want to just do a plain vanilla stockinette sock. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's also so many different kinds of heels you can try. Some of my favorites are the Fish Lips Kiss heel by Socks Therapist and the Fleagle heel. Another good option, especially for self-striping yarn, is an Afterthought heel. I also love just your traditional heel flap and gusset. Let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite type of heel to use for your socks? I feel like that's kind of one of the most intimidating parts of the sock for people, so I'd be interested to know what works best for you. And you can also use increases or decreases, depending if you're going cuff down or toe up, on your toes to make them fit your feet as best as you can. You can do more of a wedge shape, you can do more of a rounded shape, and it all just depends on the rate of how you increase. There's also different increases you can use if you prefer the look of some more than others. I love that you can mix and match different heels, toes, and cuffs to customize your socks for your feet to see what works best for you. Well, thank you for spending some time with me today, and I hope I've inspired you to give sock knitting a try. Don't be intimidated, you can do it. And if it gets tricky, keep working at it. You will eventually get it. I will link all kinds of helpful patterns and tutorials in the description box below that can hopefully help you out. If you've never knit a pair of socks before and it seems too daunting to do with small needles and thin yarn, try it with either Sport, DK, or worsted weight yarn. My first pair of socks I knit out of a worsted weight yarn using DPNs, and I followed the tutorial from Stacy Perry. I think it was called Learn to Knit Socks. I'll link it below. But I ended up with a lovely pair of sleeping socks. If you use thicker yarn like a Sport, DK, or worsted, you can always use them for lounging around the house or as sleeping socks. Please comment below with anything else you would like to see in any of these little scrap videos or in the regular podcast. If you try to cast on a pair of socks, please tag me on Instagram. I am at Knitty Heather. I'd love to see what you're doing and help encourage you along your way. But until next time, be well, be kind, and happy sock knitting. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.